it's interesting to think about it in the phases that are happening because, the album that was really close to me, particularly for like the tween years where like music is just burrowing into your skull, is, DMX. It's dark and hell is hot, and then also Flesh My Flesh, Blood My Blood. And these, his tracks, you're getting to a point where you have, more or less that Bedouin or Arabic understanding of like tribe affiliation, the saying, me against my brother, me and my brother against my cousin, me and my cousin against the world, where it is really just fucking survival music. And what I'm getting out of DMX is this, it's just, it has no bigger aspirations. It's just expressing what it's like to live there. I mean, DMX has many songs just about manic depression, about being deep in depression, and he loses the will to like cut his hair or even to take showers anymore. It's mostly shit I'm connecting to because it feels like what I'm seeing around me, and it doesn't have much of a revolutionary impulse. And DMX, it just kind of continues from there with the gangster scene. There were a lot of gangster rappers, but who mix it up. DMX is kind of like, let's just keep going darker. Let's just keep going darker and grittier and darker and more gritty. But to Pascal's point, I looked at what's the word? Jay-Z's, I'm sure you all saw it, maybe you heard about Jay-Z's little interlude at the Grammys talking about Beyonce and how she didn't get album of the year, which,
Shucks.
I don't know the exact science that they do, but you can look up a list of, winners, most awards. They're all relatively close to Beyonce, and several of them don't have an album of the year win, but that's separate. Jay-Z gets up on there, and the speech that he gives to everybody is, forget the Grammys. You got to keep showing up until they give you all those accolades you deserve, until they call you chairman, until they call you a genius, until they call you the greatest of all time. And so it has this facade of, black people standing up to the man. He's revolutionary. He even throws up the fucking trophy a little bit for a second. But who is they? Who's the one that he's waiting on the accolades from? It's just the fucking establishment. What's the path? Become powerful yourself. Become the fucking chairman yourself. Who's helping you? It's completely individualistic. And that's the vision. And that's the thing that's supposed to be this celebratory black power. We still got it, Jay-Z fucking moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I want to clarify. I don't disagree with a single thing Pascal said. So I hope I wasn't coming across saying like actually hip hop's revolutionary. What I'm talking about is,
I still have to respect you if you are.
oh, I don't disagree with a single thing. I totally agree. I mean, I think the spirit of the culture was a lot more subversive and counterculture. Is all I'm saying. There's none of that left at this point.
That's fair. That's fair. That I think. Listen, I think that there was something subversive and countercultural to the original urban, even the block parties that I was growing up and going to in Jamaica, Queens, where cats were just coming up to the microphone and plugging the electricity into the lighting system, and rapping to get a party out of kids in the street. That's subversive.
Of course.
There's something subversive that's creating a sense of community where one is not designed to exist. So
you're from Jamaica, Queens.
Yeah, Jamaica, Queens. Yeah.
Yeah, Jamaica, Queens is wild, man. Yeah.
So I agree with you that there is definitely an attempt to undermine certain aspects of the status quo there. But in terms of from a political perspective, I think when we talk about revolution, we should be very specific with our terms. I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. I was saying I agree. I totally agree. I wanted to make that clear. I don't think hip hop is revolutionary in that way whatsoever.
But at the same time, as a countercultural phenomenon, we shouldn't poo-poo it or undermine it at all. But I think that, like most Black cultural production, because the creators of the production are so divorced from capital, once they get introduced to capital, they become the most ripe for exploitation the fastest.
And this is sort of my point is you can't ever become revolutionary or subversive. You might have that spirit, but you can't become that once you become a thing to sell. So I agree with you there. The examples are obvious. Ice Cube being the most glaring, right? I mean, you're talking about someone, I want to kill Sam. You know, like whether you agree with all of the undertones and overtones of America's Most Wanted and Death Certificate, I'd never heard anything so electric, even when it was ignorant.
Ice Cube scared me when I was young.
For that motherfucker to now be what he is lets you know that everything Pascal is saying is correct, right? There was a spirit there, and that spirit can never translate into anything material once somebody starts to get capital and becomes a person who appeals to an oppressive mainstream audience, for sure. But we also have to be honest about a few things that I think people get confused about here. One is Black culture and hip hop culture and New York culture all overlap, but they're very separate. New York culture is not rap culture. My aunts and uncles did not listen to rap music ever. They didn't want to hear none of that shit. And it went other places. Rap music went to California and did incredible things there. It went to the South. It went to the Midwest. New Yorkers want to hold on to it like it's their property. That's not how culture works, right? But also, you have to be honest about it's like Adam and Eve in the garden. As soon as Sylvia Robinson signed Sugar Hill Gang and stole tracks from other motherfuckers and had these New Jersey dudes rapping these lyrics from the live performers, hip hop was done. As soon as she started, that was a Black woman putting people in what they would call a slave deal immediately. So a lot of what we say when we think about the past, we're like, oh, what happened? It got corrupted. Nah, homie, the shit was corrupted from the beginning. People were taking from each other from the very beginning, black and white alike. So if you're going to be naive about what capitalism is and what it is to sell a thing, then maybe you'll have rose-colored glasses about how revolutionary things are. I don't feel that way whatsoever. I'm just saying it's a damn shame to see the spirit gone. It's a damn shame for Black people to not be aware of their position in society and to aspire to run Ponzi schemes the way that Jay-Z has people aspiring to be. You know, what is it? He brought Bitcoin to Marcy. I mean, he brought gentrification to my family's old neighborhood in Brooklyn. You know, so it's like seeing that we've embraced this is really the tragedy to me. It's not that we ever had a revolution in hip hop, but it's that there's some sense of counterculture, subversion, and revolution in the spirit that's been killed and squelched, and that just breaks my heart. That's all.
Well, this is one of the you're getting into one of the questions I actually had, or talking points rather than questions. Is it possible that these young men that we project so much revolutionary potential on were just attempting to describe things that were affecting them at the time and not anthems against systems? For example, so many people love the idea of the NWA song F the Police, but the cops were effing with so many young Black people in SoCal at the time. The police force at that time also was a lot different, you know, racially than it is now. It's pretty damn white. As these artists get better indoctrinated into capitalism by becoming millionaires, and in Dre and Cube's case, billionaires, they have a totally different relationship to law enforcement. Ice Cube is chilling with Tucker Carlson, and Jay-Z, as you said, Jason, is helping major developers, or helped major developers, gentrify Brooklyn. Were they mad at capitalism? Were they just mad that capitalism wasn't working for them at the time, and this was the way that they expressed themselves? Or is there some sort of corruption involved?
I mean, it's broad. I mean, broad swath of people involved in rapping. I mean, at the rate of music production, you talk about this all the time, Jason, just like how much it's kept a pace of, you know, content creation. It's a lot of people to describe like why they're doing this. I do want to, sorry, this is backtracking slightly, but I love the point about Black people like losing cool. I think about that shit all the time, like how the shit is just becoming uncool, how rap is the soundtrack to, your fucking Grubhub commercial. It's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. And a lot of other things by losing the cool. But for a lot of, millennial rappers and younger, a lot of them are just describing shit that they see. And what I described about DMX, that wasn't a knock. That was something like I wasn't going to. Everybody all throughout the pandemic was talking about the value of seeing art, reading art, watching art, things that didn't just observe the world that you saw, but described it using the emotional schemes that you had developed, which often, not always, but often only comes from having, motherfuckers who grew up the way that you did, so that the internal constellation is the same. I needed DMX and I needed a lot of these other people to describe stuff. And I needed Kendrick Lamar's Black Boy Fly because I wasn't going to get those stories real. If they were somewhere, I didn't know where the fuck to get them. But these cats are young as fuck. Like a lot of these dudes, and they just keep getting younger. And, when you're describing why you hate the police, I mean, I can't speak for Ice Cube, but for a lot of people my age, when you're saying you don't like the police, it's not based on theorizing about, authority or who should have control over what. A lot of times it's because that literal police officer over there fucks with me. Like I know his name, he knows me, he sees me when I walk home from school or just when I'm walking around. He knows my car now that I'm driving, and he's just the enemy to me in this fucking part of town. And so that is why I don't like him, and I don't like other people like him, but it's completely fucking circumstantial. I don't have, this overarching critique about the correct use of authority and, dispensing justice. Some people do have that. Like I've met that dude, but a lot of these, like everybody in the drill scene, the second or third wave of like gangster rap, however you want to look at it, most of them are between like 17 and 22. And a lot of them don't make it past 23. And they don't have these overarching critiques. And so when people put revolutionary ideas on them, they do know the score. They know that they are supposed to say, like, they know this name, they know that name. They know that they're supposed to have a certain reverence for Malcolm X.
Mm-hmm.
But it's to a degree a performance, and one that you can understand coming from, a 19 or a 20-year-old who still wants to play the part.